All right, Science 10s. This is our second video on kinetic energy and motion. So the first video I talked about what is kinetic energy and did a couple of example problems for you. Now let's work together to do a couple of the practice problems from our notes guide here. So question 1 says calculate the kinetic energy of an electron. Whoa, so we're talking about in an atom, a tiny little particle, an electron. And it's moving with a mass of 9.11 times 10 to the minus 31 kilograms. That's the super tiny little thing, right? It's an electron. You can't even imagine how tiny it is, right? So we're talking atoms and electrons. And the speed that it's moving is a very fast speed, right? 2 times 10 to the 5 meters per second. So just like for every physics question, write your formula out and then substitute in your values, including your units, put them into your calculator, do your math magic on your calculator, and then when you write your final answer, make sure you've got those 4 important things: sig digs, units, rounding, and scientific notation. Okay, let's give this guy a go. So we've got the mass of the electron, 9.11 times 10 to the negative 31 kilograms. Okay, so 3 sig digs there. And then we also have the speed, and it is 2.00 times 10 to the 5, so another 3 sig digs. Remember, exponents do not count in your scientific notation, only the digits out front. So 9.11, 2.00. So we've got 3 sig digs. This one is a nice straightforward, just plug values in. We're looking for kinetic energy, EK. So again, we're going to have to find EK, and we will then change our units to joules at the very end. That's not what we're going to get, but we know that energy always is going to be in joules. Okay, so let's write out our formula. EK is 1/2 mv squared. Okay, you get marks for doing that. And again, this is in your data booklet if you forget where to look. And always, always, always write down your formula. Okay, so I don't know, maybe this is a 3-mark question. So 1 mark for doing that, writing your formula down. And then substituting in the values. Well, we know the mass is 9.11 times 10 to the exponent negative 31. And then it's V squared. Okay, so don't forget on your calculator, it's super important that you have to square it. Okay, so substituting your values in, maybe a mark there as well. So 2 marks here. All right, making sure that you're showing all your work, showing all your units. Showing your work is so important in physics. And then on your calculator, you get a value of 1.822 times 10 to the negative 20 kilograms meters squared per second squared. But that is not your final answer. You have to go back and look at the original data, 3 sig digs. And remember, this is that made up unit, kilograms meters squared per second squared. This is energy, right? Kinetic energy is going to be joules. So writing your final answer and showing 3 sig digs, correct exponents, scientific notation, and units of joules. So that's how you can get full marks. Okay, formula, substituting your values in. Obviously, you got to do your math correctly on your calculator. Don't forget that you're squaring this. So on your calculator, you probably have an x squared function. You're going to have to put in 2 exponent 5 and then square it. Okay, so make sure that you are correctly entering values into your calculator. So this might be an example of a question worth 3 marks. Okay, and again, if all you're doing is just giving me a final answer, you're not getting full marks. You have to write your formula and do all the steps that we've been practicing. Okay, let's try another example. Our next example we're going to do, same deal, write out your formula, substitute in your values. You've heard me say this 100 times, so let's just do it. Okay, so this question, let's read what we're looking at here. We've got a toy. It's moving at a uniform speed. So we've got V is 2.2 meters per second. Right off the bat, I see there's 2 sig digs in this question. And we've also been given the kinetic energy, or EK, 2 sig digs there in that value of 18 joules. Okay, super. What are we looking for? Well, we're trying to find the mass of the toy. Okay, so this is not just going to be EK is 1/2 mv squared. We're going to have to do some rearranging. So don't forget that 18 joules is the same as 18 kilograms meters squared per second squared. We're going to need this so that we can rearrange our formula. So we're looking for mass in kilograms. And now we write out our formula. EK is 1/2 mv squared. This time we are solving for mass. So that means I have to divide out 1/2 mv squared. If I do that to the right side, I've got to do it to the left side as well. 1/2 cancels, v squared cancels. So what do I have left over on the right side? Well, I canceled everything except mass. So I'm left with EK is equal to 1/2 v squared. And again, to make your calculations easy, this is the same as saying 1 divided by 1/2, and 1 divided by 1/2 is 2 times EK divided by v squared is equal to mass. Now that we've got our formula, so that took a while, right? So you do get marks for writing out the original formula. You're just copying it from your data booklet, but you must also show your rearranged formula. You get marks for that. Once that has all been done, now we can substitute in. And so we've got substituting in 2 times kinetic energy. Now remember, you must convert from joules to kilograms meters squared per second squared, or there's nothing to cancel, right? If you just go joules divided by kilograms, there's nothing to cancel, so you can't do that. So remember, when we're doing this, 2 times 18, so that's 36 kilograms meters squared per second squared, divided by, oh, I need my calculator here, 2.2 squared. Well, that's 4.84. You can do this all on your calculator. You don't have to do all these steps. I'm just showing you how to do them. Okay, so look at this, guys. What can cancel? Meters squared can cancel, seconds squared can cancel. And what am I going to be left with? Well, I'm going to be left with kilograms. Is that a correct unit for mass? Absolutely. And so your final answer, now you have to then give that to the right number of sig digs. And don't forget, remember I said you have to make sure you're squaring the speed, 2.2 squared. And again, you probably have an x squared button on your calculator to do that. And when you get the right final answer, your correct final answer to the correct number of significant digits, EK, kinetic energy, to 2 significant digits after you round and do the right number of sig digs is 7.4 kilograms. Okay, so again, being careful of using all the correct buttons on your calculator. All right, one final example, and then you will have some to do. And our final example is number 3. So we are given the mass of a baseball is 300 grams. We are given the kinetic energy of the baseball, 304 joules. Both of these have 3 sig digs. And we're asked to calculate the speed of the baseball. And of course, the speed will be in meters per second. Okay, so again, we are going to not just write out the formula, but we're going to have to rearrange. Okay, so rearranging. Let's do this. EK is 1/2 mv squared. And now, how do I solve? I want v squared, I want v. So first of all, I have to get rid of everything on that side of the equation. 1/2 times m. Goodbye, 1/2 times m. Now I'm going to do the same to this side of the equation, 1/2 times m. So now I have v squared on this side is EK. I hate this 1/2 on the bottom. So I'm going to go 1 divided by 1/2 is 2 EK over m. I'm almost there. One more step. Remember, I'm looking for the speed, v. So to go from v squared to v, you've got to find on your calculator your square root button. So v, take the square root of this side, Means I take the square root of that side. What do I get? V is the square root of 2 times the kinetic energy divided by the mass. Could you write EK over half m? Yes, but like I said, I think it's easier for you to do this on your calculator like this. So now I'm going to plug in my values. I'm not using joules because I want to be able to cancel out units. I'm going to go 2 times 304 kilograms meters squared per second squared. Now this is all under our root sign here. And then I'm dividing by the mass of, oh boy, 300 grams. Kilograms of grams, that doesn't work. I'm going to have to do a unit conversion. 300 grams times, what's the fact you guys know about grams? Well, you should know that 1 kilogram has 1,000 grams in it. And that means you're going to divide by 1,000 and you get 0.300 kg. So you can't write in grams, you have to convert it to kilograms. Now, take a look at, we've got kilograms on top, kilograms on bottom. We can cancel that out. 2 times 304 divided by 0.300, and then you take the square root of that. So on your calculator, it's going to be like 2026.66 repeat meters squared per second squared, and that's under your square root sign. So the root of that is like 45.018 blah blah blah. What's the root of a meter squared? It's a meter. What is the root of a second squared? Well, it's a second. Okay, so there's 45 point blah 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 meters per second. Now go back to your original data. 3 sig digs there, 3 sig digs there. So the speed of this baseball is 3 sig digs, 45.0, it's the units for speed, meters per second. Okay, check your answer. Have you rounded correctly? Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3 sig digs. That 1 will not make the 0 round up. Do I have units? Yeah, a speed, units for speed, meters per second. That looks great. Scientific notation, you can write it as 4.50 times 10 to the 1 meters per second, or you can leave it like this. Both are acceptable, and you are now done. Okay, so in that kind of one where you had to do a big amount of rearranging, it's going to be worth more than one where it's just a straight plug and chug. Okay, well, you guys are going to got some questions to work on now, calculating kinetic energy, mass, or speed of the object. Pitter patter, get at her.